The first thing I noticed was how easily the key used to turn. For months after buying the apartment, that small click had felt like proof of something. I had spent evenings and weekends fixing the place piece by piece, painting walls that had turned yellow with age, replacing cracked tiles in the kitchen, learning how to install cabinet hinges after 3 failed attempts. Nothing about the renovation was perfect. One corner of the ceiling still had a faint line, where the paint didn't blend quite right. The bathroom sink drained a little slower than it should. But it was mine. That evening, coming home from work, I stood in the hallway with grocery bags in one hand and the key in the other. The key didn't turn. At first I thought I had misaligned it. I pulled it out, tried again slowly, pressing the door inward the way I sometimes had to. Still nothing. I crouched slightly, looked closer at the lock. It was new. For a few seconds I just stood there staring at the door. The hallway smelled faintly like cleaning detergent from earlier that day. Somewhere upstairs a television was playing. I called my mother. She answered quickly, cheerful in the way she often was when she assumed a conversation would be simple. I asked if she knew anything about someone changing the lock on my apartment. There was a short pause. Then she said it like it was the most reasonable thing in the world. We let Emily move in. Not asked. My sister Emily was 9 years older than me. The one who had always spoken with a certain certainty about how things worked in the world. When I first told the family I was saving for an apartment, she had laughed, not cruelly exactly, but with the confidence of someone correcting a younger person's unrealistic idea. You'll see, she had said. Places like that aren't easy to afford on your own. Now my mother continued explaining the same calm tone. Emily was going through a divorce. She needed somewhere stable for a while. The apartment was empty during the day anyway since I worked full-time. You're young, my mother added. You can be flexible. I didn't say anything for a moment. Inside the apartment, I thought I heard movement. Maybe a chair scraping lightly against the floor. I imagined Emily walking through the rooms I had spent months fixing. My mother kept talking about family helping family, about difficult times, about how this was temporary. The grocery bags felt heavy in my hand. I asked one question. Another pause. Slightly longer this time. Well, we assumed you'd understand. The conversation ended soon after. I stood in the hallway for another minute. There were several obvious things I could do. Knock on the door. Argue through it. Call Emily directly. Demand my key back. But I knew how that would unfold, voices rising, accusations about selfishness. Someone eventually saying I was overreacting. The story would turn emotional instead of factual. So I picked up the grocery bags again and walked down the stairs. The police station was 3 blocks away. Inside, the room was quiet in a different way than the hallway had been. Fluorescent lights hummed softly overhead. A man behind the desk looked up from his computer when I approached. I explained the situation as simply as I could. It sounded strange even while I said it. My sister changed the lock on my apartment. The officer asked a few questions. Not personal ones, just practical things. Did I have proof of residency? I pulled the lease agreement from my work bag. The property documents followed. He read them carefully, then called another officer over. Within 15 minutes we were walking back toward my building. The evening air had cooled. I felt oddly calm, as if the situation had moved into a system that didn't care about family logic. The officer knocked on my door. A few seconds later it opened. Emily stood there, looking tired more than anything else. She was wearing one of my old hoodies I had left hanging by the door weeks earlier. Her eyes moved from me to the officer. Is there a problem? The officer spoke gently, but directly. He asked if she lived there. Asked whether her name appeared on the lease. Emily's confidence shifted almost immediately. Well, it's my sister's place technically, she said. But I'm staying here for a bit. The officer nodded once. Then he explained. The apartment legally belonged to me. Changing the lock without permission created a situation that needed to be corrected immediately. Emily looked at me then. Really looked. Inside the apartment I could see small changes already. My couch had been moved closer to the window. A blanket draped over the back of a chair. Boxes near the kitchen wall. It looked less like the careful renovation project I remembered and more like someone trying to settle into a temporary refuge. No one raised their voice. Emily gathered her things quietly while the officer stood near the doorway. A suitcase. Some toiletries from the bathroom. The process took less than an hour. When she finally walked past me into the hallway, she didn't say much. Just a tired, "I thought you wouldn't mind." Then she left. Later that night the apartment was quiet again. I sat on the floor of the living room because I still hadn't bought a proper chair. The walls I painted months earlier looked slightly uneven in the dim light. For the first time since finishing the renovation, the place felt fully still. My phone buzzed once with a message from my mother. I didn't open it. The apartment wasn't perfect, but it was mine.